Well, good evening, friends and other people.
And enemies. And frenemies.
What does Trump say? That the haters and the haters and the losers? You guys can come too.
I
There's no haters or losers. I don't know what I'm saying. Hi, welcome
it's a
to
long week.
yeah, welcome to Chat on Education Live. As you can see, it's going to be a good night. We have
It's gonna be a good one.
It is. It is. We can all hear Glenn tonight, which is exciting because he's got a boosty booster on his microphone now. So that's exciting. Big news in the world of Glenn Irvin, by the way, just like an hour ago.
Super nerd news.
Tell us.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, really.
I just made Legend in Hearthstone. And
There we go.
And for Glenn's in Glenn's nerd gaming world, that is an excessive amount of time spent on a game that was built for children. A digital card game for children that's
Sure.
built upon the same concepts as Pokemon, just so you know. But I am Legend now, and
You are a legend now. You're
no
very
one can
good
take
at
that
it.
away from me now.
And, I saw
that's
that
so
Chris
funny.
Avila's replied to you. He's legend
He's really good.
status as well.
Yes, he is awesome.
I'll tell
love
you,
Chris.
it takes a lot of work.
It takes I don't know if it's work or waste of time. It was
Your life mission.
Persistence.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
it
what
was
you were
it was
meant to
very
do.
fun. My kids were around me. My youngest son told me as I was approaching this last game, he's like, "Pops, it's okay if you lose. You're gonna be okay. You know, just it's not about getting legend. It's just about having fun or something like that." I'm like,
Aw.
It's like, shut up, kid.
"Where are you getting
Little pep
this?"
talk.
So they celebrated with me, both of my sons. So that was hilarious. So I guess that's a positive moment there.
So was this like the Rocky movie? Like was one putting a towel around your back and like massaging your shoulders? And was it?
Yes.
I just wanted to
Yeah,
visualize.
just like oh, wiping up the sweat, cleaning me up. It's
No,
gonna be
were you
okay.
nervous? Did you was it intense?
It was intense, yes, and yeah, no, I mean the leading up to it was intense. I actually didn't even want to play anymore because you get up to legend or you get up to rank 1, and then you still have to win a certain number of games. So I was like, I'm so tired of losing after I get up to 1, and I finally passed the threshold, and now I can move on to Farming Simulator or some other game in the super nerd world.
So if you're watching at home, first, why? No,
Hi, everybody.
thank you for spending your Friday night. Lord knows you got nothing else to do, but thank you anyways.
You're awesome.
Feel free to weigh in or chat with us or comment. There's like we're streaming on Twitch, but we're also streaming on the OnEducation YouTube channel and on the Participate Facebook channel tonight. So we're basically everywhere. You can't go on the internet without finding the 5 of us tonight. So
That
good
would be
luck.
so creepy. Imagine that. You
It's
just
like
turn
a
the
boy
TV
band.
on. You're like, what is going on here? And
we're just
who are these
everywhere.
people? And why is this guy
We're
talking about a
everywhere.
children's
We're
card
like,
game?
is this like the new State of the Union address? And we're on all 3 channels.
Congrats on legendary status from Audrey is watching on Twitch. She's I don't know why
Hey.
she's not in the damn room, but whatever.
Because
She's
She's got
supporting
stuff
us.
to do.
Yeah.
People got stuff to do. Who would have thought? So thanks for watching, everybody. We did come up with some ideas and questions about things to talk about, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What else should we mention? Oh, well, so we passed 100,000 downloads yesterday on the podcast. 100 freaking thousand.
That's a lot.
insane.
Big number.
I feel like that's a big number. I don't know what other podcasts, how many downloads other podcasts get.
I think it shows 2 things: longevity, and then obviously consistent consistent listeners. Sorry, which is fantastic. I mean, that's like what you want. You know, it's what you want as far as when you do something like this. So I think it's freaking awesome.
Yeah. Hey, Tisha. Thanks for watching.
Yay.
Welcome. 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 Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And most of that's come in the last year. The last year has been huge. We've had some really good months. Pre-COVID months were really, really good. And then, when people stopped getting in their damn cars, it tapered off a little bit. But it's been not so bad the last couple weeks. But I think I agree with Glenn that, you get out what you put in to things in almost every case, I guess. And, I think we've all, some of us are kind of new to the team, like Diana, but like Dave and Mel have been working hard and like helping us out and doing lots of I realized just the other day that you guys have been with us for just over a year already. I think.
Oh,
No, I don't. I think it was
it's coming up on a year.
August. But yeah, it's coming up on a year.
Coming up on a year.
Yeah.
I think that we can take all the claim to fame for boosting those numbers up past 100,000, though.
It's not causality, but it's a strong correlation.
Oh God, there's definitely no coincidence.
yeah.
not at all.
There's definitely no coincidence. So thanks to everybody who watches and listens and weighs in, and I'm really excited still about things like this. To be honest, like I never thought that this is something we would be doing, but it seems actually pretty natural to me, this conversation. And it's funny because I come into it pretty tired. It's Friday night. It's the end of the week, and I'm working like crazy, and we're all working like crazy, especially right now and in the midst of a pandemic. But I come in tired, but I leave pretty happy that I was here and got to talk with you all and got to see people watching like Tisha and others that are watching us live right now, and hopefully weigh in on some of these conversations we're about to have. So it's been a good ride, and I think that we still got lots of room to grow.
Gonna hit that 1
lots
million.
I would love I would be beside myself if we got to 1 million downloads.
We got to go to 7 digits there. 1 million's got to
boy.
be. That's
It's not out of the realm.
No, and I would think that would be an elite class of educational podcasts. Let's just say that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like how many of them have hit that much? I don't know, but I think that we could do it, Mike. We might be like 70 years old, but we're gonna do it.
We'll be doing this. It'll be funny is when we get to like 800,000 and we're in our like 50s and we're like, oh my God, I just want to be done with this, but oh my God, we're so
We
close.
gotta hit 1 million. We gotta keep going.
Right, and that you get to a point where you can't stop because you're so close to the number. Oh my God.
And you do know when you hit 1 million, then you're legend status.
Oh,
Just like in
see?
Hearthstone. So
Just
at 1 million,
that's it. 1 million's legend.
then you can just stop.
We
That's
gotta
why you're
grind
here.
to it.
That's why you're here, Mel, just
Yeah.
to tie it all together. Just to bring it all cohesive. Like, very good. Hey, Diana's first blog post got published this week,
Yes.
and it was really damn good.
Oh, thank you.
Woohoo.
You say 50 like it's old.
Yeah, really. I won't comment on that. He's young.
I actually am getting close to 52. Like I was just thinking about, I was like, oh shit.
Crap. Glenn, when do you turn 40?
I'm gonna be 45 this year, so I'm like, oh, that's not that far away, actually. So
I guess
5
that's
years,
funny.
we could do it in 5 years. Let's do this.
In 5 years, I think we could do it.
We can
in
hit
5
1 million.
years.
Let's do it.
Wild.
Yes.
So this blog post was really good. So why don't you, Diana? Why don't you kind of give us kind of the blog post 101 to start, and then maybe we'll, because I'm not going to show it on the screen, but you should go read it. So if you go to oneducation.com and click on the blog, or maybe the link that someone is about to post in the chat any minute now. It wasn't me, but someone's going to do it.
I had to get it to Twitter first.
Dave.
I had to get it to Twitter first.
I was
It's
looking at
coming,
Dave.
it's
I'm
coming.
like, Dave, come on, Dave.
Big
There
hand.
You
he
have
is.
one job.
Well, now I've got 3 platforms to manage. We have a YouTube channel that's new. God, Facebook.
So there's Dave. Dave is clutch with the blog article. So you
Yes.
could go look at the blog post, but give us the summary, Diana,
Well, the long
or your
and the
thoughts. Yeah.
what prompted me to write that, and full transparency, I actually wrote it a little while ago for another purpose, and then just revised it for this purpose. But what actually prompted me to write it was all of the cliche terms that people have started using in education lately, and calling educators rock stars. And when Audrey wrote on the blog from last week about how if you put some people on a pedestal, then if you put all of your everything, if you trust in humans, like you're waiting on humans to do whatever, then you're likely to get disappointed. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I mean by this crazy thing that we're going through, calling everybody a rock star. Because I went into education, and I'm sure all of you all are the same way. All of us went into education to make a difference. Like, I don't think any of us went into this profession to, be championed as the high person on that pedestal. And so I think part of it is also fear of failure. If you think about that, if somebody starts calling you a rock star, it's a lot to live up to. And so there are a lot of ideas and emotions that I put into that piece. But the bottom line is how can we lead others in this crazy time that we're going through, to use some good leadership tips, and remember that not everybody, that calling people a rock star, you're bound to leave out others who have just as much contribution. And I'll tell you one thing that this happened in a discussion group in my district back in the fall. And there was a young teacher who's 20, she's the same age as my daughter, so she's 29, and she's been teaching, a few years. And she made a point that I had not thought about at all for that age group. And she said, all the teachers who like to post on Twitter, they just seem to get all the attention. And she said, for me, posting on Twitter is like I'm bragging, and that's just not me. So I don't like to do that. And that kind of resonated with me, is that how we give accolades to all the people who self-promote in a way, and then we might overlook the people who work just as hard and make just as good contributions. But that's kind of the nuts and bolts of that article.
I mean, we know that there's a lot of great teachers that aren't on Twitter. Obviously. Yep. I mean, I remember early on, Glenn, I got pushback by saying that most teachers aren't on Twitter or something
that was a statement you made, and it was like, first of all, it's backed up by facts, everybody.
I mean,
I
there
don't
are
even
8
know
million teachers in North America.
It was like there was going to be this argument about that. There was almost everybody was. It's like, no, they are not using that. I mean, if you wanted to say a huge chunk of teachers are on Facebook, let's say, that's probably correct. I maybe would say you might be able to get a 25%, 30% of educators in the United States or North America, whatever, might be on Facebook. I think the percentage on Twitter is actually
10.
really small.
10%.
Maybe
10, or maybe even
I don't even
smaller.
Oh.
I think even smaller. Yeah, I was thinking more like 5% or less.
So we know that there's like way more teachers than 10% that are awesome teachers. Oh, so, yes. I mean, there's lots of teachers out there that aren't getting, like, and even the teachers, there are tons of teachers on Twitter that have like no followers and aren't sharing
No.
because they just don't want, like what Diana just said. And actually, to be honest, Cheryl is one of them. Cheryl's an amazing kindergarten teacher, and she's being recognized by her school board and her district as being a leader in a lot of ways, and her principals are like putting her name out for like accolades and all this stuff. But have you seen a tweet from her at all? The one thing I made her tweet the other day because she came up with this like really cool real life coding example for kindergarten kids, and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? If you don't tweet, you gotta tweet that. Like, people gotta see this idea so that they can like learn from you. So I literally like had to like force her to tweet it, but like there's tons of teachers that aren't doing that.
And that's what I was wondering for the rest of you guys, when and if you're actually called rock star, because it happens a lot. I think it's just like a thing that's, and people are meaning it as, most of the time, as a compliment. I got a
They do mean
I
it.
had-
Yeah.
yeah, I think most of the time it's like they're trying to be complimentary. But I've also seen some things where like somebody might do a backhanded comment of saying, like, there was a gentleman who called me a poster child for Schoology, right? And he was doing it as a backhanded comment because he was saying that because I participated in this webinar thing that they invited me to do, that I was I was their poster child, so I was responsible because Schoology went down right away at the beginning of this at the beginning of all this online learning that happened.
Yes.
And basically it turned into this kind of back and forth thing where I just was like, okay, first of all, I'm not the poster child. I'm not an employee of theirs. If I've done some things that I think would help other teachers, and I think there is some, I would have to say that I admit that there's some self-promotion though. So there is some of that, as far as some of that stuff where you're posting some things or you're putting some things on Twitter, or for me on YouTube to be able to share lessons or whatever it might be. In a way, I mean, ultimately my goal was to share things to help other people, but there is some stuff where I'm like, I could see where I come off as self-promoting, because I think other people, and I try not to be that person, but I'm sure that I do sometimes. And like, for example, today, Power School posted this thing about this, pulled a clip of my webinar. They didn't ask me for it. They have permission, they get your voice on their channel and they can use it for whatever they want. And they tagged me and my school district in this quote that I made, and I was like, oh my God. Because I didn't even know what part of the webinar, it was like a 1 hour webinar, and I don't know what part it actually was. And I thank God what I said was actually something that sounded halfway intelligent when it actually talked about our school district and it tagged our school district. And I'm like, oh God. But all of this, going back to that Rockstar thing, it is an interesting thing, and I think it's thrown around a lot. So I really did enjoy reading the article, and I think the part that I took from the most is what I said on the podcast, which was I need to really think about those people who aren't the loudest, that aren't the people right in front of your face, and really try to make sure that we listen to their voices, number one, but also try to encourage them to continue on and say, hey, you know what, you're kicking butt as a teacher, and you don't have to be on Twitter or whatever.
Right.
And Audrey brings up a good point in the chat here too, and I think it piggybacks with Glenn's comment about listening. We have teachers on our staff, just like our students too, who some of them enjoy being recognized in front of the group or being recognized in the community. And some don't. Some just want to do what they do and be awesome at it, but they're doing it for the sake of their kids, and they don't want that public recognition. So as leaders, we need to be aware of those teachers and, have those conversations with them, because we want them to be just as comfortable as the ones who are, I hate to say self-promoting, because honestly, I've gotten so many great ideas off of teachers posting stuff on Twitter. So, I don't want that listeners to come away thinking that that's necessarily a negative thing. It's just that I think some teachers are more comfortable sharing and
Yes.
some teachers aren't. And do you.
Well, I think there's a difference in sharing and self-promoting, and I don't have an example. I'm just saying that, that I've gotten excellent ideas also on Twitter, and I can't even think of anyone in my head right now that I would consider to be a self-promoter, but I think that it's the whole edu celebrity that was our last discussion. It's that thing. And for me personally, that blog came from a part where I don't want to be called a rock star because I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint somebody. Like, if you put me on this pedestal and then I do something that disappoints you, then that will make me feel bad. So for me, it was a lot of personal, and trust me, some of the stuff I wrote in there, I'm guilty of. And yeah.
Hey, Mike, I was thinking about this one as far as self-promoting. What do you guys think about the hashtags that are created, right? And they're not like hashtag ChatOnEducation or whatever it might be, as far as some kind of something that's actually being put out there, but a hashtag that's being used by a edu celebrity, let's say, that they created based upon their self-promotion brand. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can think of a couple of them out there right now that
like
there's a
ditch
specific
something, or
no, but see, I would say maybe those ditch whatever might be aren't the because there's an actual
the product.
maybe that's part of it too. But I wouldn't actually consider a lot of those that. But there's some that have a specific word or phrase that becomes part of every single tweet that they send out. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Yes?
Yeah.
It happens a lot on Edu Twitter, and it's basically associated with a specific hashtag and that person. Now everything is like that. So what do you think about that as far as people using those types of things? I know that happens quite a bit.
I mean, it's marketing, right? I mean,
Yes.
so for some of these folks, and I'm not one of them. I have a job, and it's not my full-time job to do speaking, and the podcast isn't a full-time job for any of us. And so I look at for all of this, and this is consistent with me. I think I'm consistent on this, and whether it's the people we call rock stars, or the people we call edu celebrities, or the people that have hashtags for their personal brands, I'm still evaluating their body of work. I'm still looking at what they add. I don't give a damn what you say. I'm looking at what you do, especially now. Like, I am so right now in my professional life, I'm like, show me. Don't tell me. I've gone to like even to the point where I was showing Noah Geisel the other day that I've created on TweetDeck. I've gotten rid of the main feed on Twitter, where I see kind of everyone that I follow's tweets, which is kind of what your default thing is that you see. And I've created a list, and it's called Focus, and it's fairly small. It's probably got about 40 people on it. You guys are all on it, by the way. You made the list. But it's called Focus, and it's the people that whose body of work I respect. And what I'm looking for there is for if there's work that's being done by other people that I'm not paying attention to consistently on Twitter, that's going to rise in my feed as retweets and replies by these 40 or so people. And then I'm going to start paying attention because I'm really looking at what you've done. I am so done with people talking about doing things and talking about how freaking great they are and talking about all of this other stuff. It's like, just stop talking to me and show me what you've done. I'm over here working my ass off to do things, and I just want to see other people like. And so, yeah, maybe I self promote a little bit, but listen, I'm trying to do stuff, and I'm trying to help people, and so I don't care if you are like this idea that people use edgy celebrity as a pejorative. Whatever. Really, I mean, people are famous because they're popular, and if you're popular because you do good work, then I'm cool with that. All the power to you. If you have 200,000 Twitter followers because you kick ass, then that's awesome. And I'm probably one of those 200,000 followers. If you listen, if you have and there are people who have 80, 90, 100,000 Twitter followers, and their Twitter feeds are BS, just ridiculousness. Not like hot takes, but just dumb stuff. And there's one or two. I'm going here. There's one or two
I think
that I don't.
Do we have a censor mic button?
I'm really close. I don't follow them, and because they're it's nonsense. And so it's like, do the work and earn it. Earn being called an edu celebrity. Earn being called, a rock star. And for me, I'm exactly the way, and Glenn would know. Glenn, a lot of you guys have been around me enough personally. I'm exactly the way here as generally I am in person. I'm a little more obnoxious right now at this very moment, but generally speaking, I'm if you don't like me here, then you won't like me in person. And I sleep fine, generally speaking. No, I don't.
No, you don't.
But it's for other reasons.
No, you don't. That was before on the podcast.
This is not keeping me up at night.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lots of other things are.
Right.
You got more questions?
There we go. No, now that I've completely done that, a whole rant, we're done, eh? Let's talk about course schedules for next fall. What will they look like? Will we see more block scheduling? I think we're going to see more than block scheduling. But what do we think? I
think we're going to see flexibility and people being very uncomfortable with what we don't know until we know it.
And the question is, when are we going to know it?
And who makes that decision? I was just on a call this week with a organizing body that is very, very high up in where you would think the decision would come from. And the person who was there from the department said, "Oh, we're not making that decision. We're letting local authority make most of those decisions. We'll give some guiding documents." And have you seen our guiding documents? They're really long. So we really don't want to give too many guiding documents because we want to make sure that you value what we give you. And it's like, everyone's waiting for you to make that decision on what is happening with all K-12 schools.
Yeah. They're talking about like a Department of Education.
Like a Department of Education, like one of those big
high-level authority that should be making those kinds of things.
Well,
or the perception is they should be making it. Like people are leaning on them to say something.
Yeah.
But here in Minnesota, we have full local authority on so much of what's done. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they can actually tell us what will be required, but rather give us stipulations of, if you're doing this is what attendance needs to look like, or here are special ed supports that you must provide, or here's the new version of the MCA that will be, proctored on a crappy Chromebook from a crappy internet.
Well, I'm not saying that the decision should be completely up to local authorities, but I'm really supportive of not all schools in the state need to follow the same decision. Because when you're dealing with a lot of states, and I mean, honestly, at least probably half the states or most of the states in the Western US, you're going to have a lot of geographical differences.
Yes.
And, you know, here in Nebraska, and I know it's the same in Minnesota, and I'm sure it's the same in lots of states, we live 2 hours from Walmart. We we're
You're rural.
pretty remote, so we maybe don't need to follow the same regulations as Omaha, who has, 8 high schools with 2,000 students apiece. I don't know if that's exactly right, but should the Department of Education have the same policies and decisions for both sets of schools? I would say no. I mean, we also have high schools that have 11 graduates just about 40 miles down the road from here.
Yeah.
They're going to have different policies and guidelines to follow than my school, where we have between 40 and 50 graduates.
That's a good point. Because Kentucky's the same way, because where I live in Kentucky, we're really part of the greater Cincinnati area. And so our population is a lot more, more populous than where I grew up in Kentucky, which is very remote county. And, you're exactly right. They live on farms and far away from each other, and their rules might not be the same as ours.
And it's not just like block scheduling, and there's a lot of other things that we're going to see related to course schedules, and course content, and I think it's come up before about like absenteeism, for example, is going to be normal. Like that is going to be a regular occurrence. Your kids will not be in school, and or other kids will, like your students, will not be in school, and we need to make incredible amounts of accommodations for things that we've never experienced before, and this idea that we're not going to know what we're dealing with, I think, until like the exact moment that we're dealing with it.
Yes.
Until it's here. That's right.
I think that's how it feels. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to know that how to handle something until we have to, and then there needs to be like almost like every district has to set up an emergency task force that can meet at a moment's notice and make a decision about something that's happening, because you're going to come across things that you've never seen before, and it's all going to happen. Everything we're experiencing is happening for the first time in any time in history that's been properly recorded. We don't know how they handled the Black Death. There wasn't CNN and Politico and The Hill and all of these other, or Vox, and there wasn't explainer videos on YouTube about how they handled 25% of the population of Europe dying. So we don't know. We don't know what happened then, and so we don't know what's going to happen now. We have no idea, and anyone who thinks they do have an idea of what's going to happen is just completely lying to you.
I like the ideas that were shared on Twitter by Corey Graham, who I've mentioned on this show about 56,000 times. But she is an alumni of a school in Iowa, a university, in Iowa, called Luther College. And anyway, that school has already put out a statement of what they're going to do next year. And one of the things, the accommodations that they're going to make is the first month of school, the freshman class that's incoming, and I really like this part, are actually going to attend physically to the school, but nobody else is for that first month, so that they can actually, physically be away from each other. But I remember going my freshman year to college, and it was so important for me to go there, to be physically there, and also to be part of the culture of the school and learn what it was to be a university student versus just a high school student. Learn how to manage yourself, as far as and doing all of those things. So I thought that was a very smart move. And then that first month for, I'm not sure if it was all the students, but they are going to have a flexible schedule, basically kind of like a J term or a May term at some different universities that currently have those types of things, where they're going to have one course that the students take over a 4-week period. And Dave, you had brought up some really good points about that could also, there's some issues with that too, as far as that specific, type of scheduling, to try to cram basically a whole semester.
Taking a 16-week term or an 18-week term, depending on your system, and condensing it down into 8 weeks is a challenge and is rigorous on the student end, and on the faculty end is rigorous. Like, we're pulling our hair out sometimes, depending on what type of course it is. But then to take that and slide it down one more time, and I guess it's equivalent to what we do in the summer, where you take 4 very intense weeks or 5 very intense weeks, and that is the full semester.
Yes.
But summer courses are generally very specific courses. They are courses that don't require like that huge iteration cycle. I'm thinking like a writing class would be so hard, or any literature course where there's either reading or the synthesis and reflection of information outside of class, outside of lecture, would just be so difficult to be able to do that rapid fire.
What do we think of this?
What is that, Mike?
Oh, is it
that's
not
the
big enough?
CDC guidelines.
No, I see it.
Okay.
I don't know
Should
if
you
I can
consider
zoom it in.
opening?
Yeah. Do that.
They're bigger.
Will reopening be consistent with applicable orders? Is the school ready? And then, you do not open. If they're all yes, you go to the next level with safeguards, and the next level. At least it's being put out. I think that's. I haven't specifically read through all of these things, Mike, but I mean, that's good that people. Is this from the CDC?
Yeah.
This is so what we're looking at if you're listening to the podcast, because this makes for really great listening.
Yeah, it's great audio. Yes.
Is the CDC guidelines for school opening. And there is a decision-making tree. And so the first stage is, should you consider opening? ? Will reopening be consistent with applicable state and local orders? Is the school ready to protect children and employees at higher risk for severe illness? And are you able to screen students and employees upon arrival for symptoms and history of exposure?
That part right there is a big...
Right? I mean...
That is such a challenge. Imagine that, everybody. I mean, we have 2,400 high school students that come to our building.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't... There's a way to do that, I'm sure, but... Whoa. Well, I mean, just even thinking about it is highly stressful, Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
Our friend Mayor brought up some clip where it was a student walking into school, and it took less than 30 seconds for them to go through the entire process, for this student to go through the entire process. It was a young child, and it was a temperature check and a mask change and spraying something down somewhere. And even if we had that run so well and we could do that for everyone, would the parents and would the opinionated communities actually do it?
Right.
The vocal minority of you can't impinge on my freedom by checking my temperature.
I don't know.
Until you until you make me wear a mask in Costco.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's a minority though. I feel like it's it's an equal group. People that believe in this and people that are ready to just
You think so?
Let's move on. Oh God. yeah.
Oh, that's how
In the
crazy
United
America
States,
is.
Wisconsin just opened.
Yeah, Wisconsin, there was people out going to the bars and
Go-
drinking.
mask-free
That
bars.
was,
That
that
was
was
national
kind of
news.
against their will. That was opened by the courts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And in Minnesota, we're opening up on Sunday. And
And
I'm sure we're gonna
Monday
be on
we
the
open
news,
some,
right?
and then Monday we open some, and then June 1st we
Yeah.
open a little bit more.
And I'm sure people are going to push it to the extreme
Extremes.
edge. I'm sure that I already know that at restaurants, bars, and whatever might be, though they say they can only serve up to half capacity or whatever that number is. Um, there's just some people that honestly there was okay. I went to go buy some plants today. I didn't really even want to go to this store. It was a
You left the
typical
house.
national chain, okay, of hardware stores, but they have plants and seeds and everything else, those kinds of things. And there was a man who was laughing at my wife and I because we were wearing the masks. I mean, I'm just like, this is where we're at. This is like, I mean, this is like, there is no discussion. There's no middle ground. This is, you are on one side of this as far as believing that this even is something that we should be concerned about. And obviously I'm in the other because I'm super uncomfortable even being in the store. Definitely going to be wearing a mask just to try to see if I can hopefully be able to stay safe and keep my family safe. But yeah, it's crazy.
And no idea, not even an idea of, you do you. And if you, right, I was laughing
that
at
would
you.
be fine. That would be fine
Right,
if everybody
right.
was just kind of doing their own thing, and everybody's like, you're doing whatever you're doing. I'm gonna do whatever I do. Let's just be good. Yeah. So,
Wild.
Yeah. Exactly.
So,
But along
so we
that
already see.
line, though,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say along that line on those bullet points is even if you could do it and do it well, you're still going to have parents, I feel, that aren't going to be comfortable sending their children to school. So back to that thing that you said about absenteeism, we're going to have to be ready to face that because that's going to be a thing.
I like that the hardest one is first. Like I think they made this the right way in the sense that that last one in that first column, are you able to screen students and employees upon arrival for symptoms and history of exposure? So the key one there is also the history of exposure. That means that this is saying, can you do a coronavirus test and can you do an antibody test on every student every time they walk into the school?
Crazy.
And if you can't do that, you shouldn't be coming back to school. I can't think of a single place in the United States of America that can do this right now. I can't think of a single place in Canada that can do this right now.
Not even businesses can,
No.
or the highest government levels. Maybe they can, at a very small scale, but yeah, not at this point in time.
And then after that,
yeah,
after that, it's all a lot easier. I mean, it's still hard, but if that first one, this idea of intensify cleaning, disinfection, and ventilation. I mean, I think that's actually kind of a weird issue because I can tell you in Ontario schools, and I imagine this is the case in most schools. Most schools aren't air conditioned. Some high schools are. A lot of high schools are because they're huge, right? But most Ontario public schools don't have air conditioning. The only schools that do are the ones that are open year round. So like it's funny that Cheryl always talks about year round schooling, and the first thing she always brings up when we talk about it is it would be too hot. The schools aren't air conditioned, even with the windows open. It would be it would be 30 degrees, 35 degrees, 105 degrees Fahrenheit in the classroom. That's dangerous.
Terrible.
Right? I mean, that's not safe. So I don't think that a lot of schools are properly ventilated, probably and able to, evacuate and recycle air. I mean, we've all, I was going to say we've all, but I don't know where, I can't remember where everyone lives, but have you ever been in a school in the middle of winter with young kids in their snow pants and their winter boots, and how disgusting the hallways smell? That's how you know the schools aren't properly ventilated, friends.
Just teach freshmen.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Audrey is still probably listening, and she's probably getting bad memories of I think the rest of you all, I think am I the only other person that's taught taught elementary?
I taught elementary.
Oh, did you? Oh, phew.
Oh yeah.
Good. Yeah, no, it's disgusting is what it is. Uh, and you know what other one is interesting here, because we're starting to see pictures of it now. Encourage social distancing through increased spacing, small groups, and limited mixing between groups if feasible. Have you seen these pictures online of the kids in the playground where they draw a freaking square on the tarmac and say, "This is your square, and you can only play in this square"? What kind of like physical activity? What kind of recess is that? What kind of like
Terrible.
like it's awful, and it's like, this is your jail, and don't leave.
That's so
Do not
sad.
leave. Do not. It is sad. It's
Oh.
incredibly sad. The pictures are just so awful, and it's like, I've seen these pictures of here's your square, and you're not allowed to leave it. And they do this in the classrooms, right, with tape around the desks, and they tape around your desk, and
Can't
that's
leave that
that's your personal space, and you're not allowed to leave that personal space. What kind of life is that? What kind of if that's school,
It's a
what
new reality? Yeah.
if that's school, what the hell? Like, really, are we doing? I'm just throwing sunshine on everything tonight.
Well,
You
and
brought
then I
us
think
down.
about how are we going to be able to fit
Yes.
any of the numbers into our classrooms, and that made me think of this this social distance classroom kind of map that is put out by somebody, David Custer from it's posted on GeoGebra, and I just tweeted it out on the OnEd podcast Twitter handle, and our good friend Andy Leisure had shared this on Facebook, and you can't fit the right number of circles in a classroom, and everyone thinks, like, in their head they can kind of think like, okay, it's this distance or whatever, and we can do that, and you can put a kid facing a wall or whatever, but when you look at the actual circles, there's just no way.
Oh my gosh.
It's awful. It's
Yes.
really bad. It's really bad, folks. I'll tell you, the portable. I think I've said this before. The portable companies are the next industry that's going to make an absolute killing. Like, if you own shares in whatever companies are, if there's a public company that makes portable units for
Sign us
schools,
up.
that's a company to invest the hell in right now, because if all of these schools can only fit 10 people in a classroom because of spacing, you're going to need your whole, who cares if they only have a square, because the whole rest of the field is going to be full of portables in every school. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane.
And where's the money going to come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Because-
right. And
We
we're
always talk
cutting
about that
budgets.
too. Yep.
Because, DeVos just, okay, yeah. I'm not going to go there. We only have 11 minutes left. That's going to open up another.
Well,
Listen, I can't. Diana's retiring, and I don't work for a school board, so we're the ones that can talk smack about our school districts and education system.
we actually have some portable units right now because we're doing a building project, and we moved all of our students out of the building into portable units while the building's being built, because
Oh, yeah.
we're landlocked, and so you had to tear the building down to build a new one.
Yes.
And when you said that about portable units, I mean, I just got like little palpitations, because we moved that whole school into 18 portable units over spring break, and nobody thought about the technology. Like, nobody thought, oh, we've got to have switches, and we have to have a phone system, and we have to move all the smart boards. I mean, it was ridiculous. We did it, but when you're talking about putting portables out, because we have to socially distance, people are going to have to think about that. You've got to have internet in those portables. You have to have restroom capabilities or water. I mean, there's so much.
This is we don't have a ton of time left, but this was a really good question about and I don't know what it's like in other districts and other areas. I know that both my so Isaac's teacher and Cheryl, who are both teaching right now are actively simplifying their lessons and actively working to make what they're trying to teach as approachable and barrier-free as possible. So, like, that's why Cheryl did a deviceless coding lesson, because she's like, I need every kid to be able to do this.
Nice.
Cool.
And so that means that I'm getting I'm using the floor of my entranceway of the house, and she drew little arrows on squares for code, and that's the coding lesson, and it's brilliant. But it means that, you know, you have to simplify things. You have to make things approachable and easy to use right now, easy to do, because parents are doing so much right now that,
Yes.
you know, if you are, imagine you're the parent of a kindergarten and a grade 1 and like a grade 2 student. None of them can do school on their own. They all need help. And you have a job, and you know, heaven forbid, you want to relax too, and de-stress. I mean, this is a lot. And so making things simple, like, I think that the one of the biggest roles teachers can play in this, you know, as one of the roles of, like, the taking one for the team type idea, is we've got to really do a service to our parents, realizing that we've got to use the skills and knowledge we have about lesson design and pedagogy to really hone our craft, our lesson designing, to make it as easy as possible for parents to help their kids learn.
What I don't want though, Mike, is simplicity to be turned into, and now I'm going to use a worksheet because it's because anybody can understand that. Do you know what I mean? So everybody has been there, is experienced with it. Doesn't matter if you're a teacher or not. You understand the concept of a worksheet. You fill it in. There's some directions. You actually fill it in, and what we don't want is that. But what we do want is kind of like the take that your wife basically had on coding, which was, I'm going to make this accessible to anybody, easy to be able to replicate in an environment without a specific device, but yet a high level of learning. It's something where you can now use, like, it's something that's applicable, and then you're going to be able to take for future, learnings and lessons, instead of it being just some worksheet you're just filling out just to pass the time. Just wanted to make sure I said that, because I know that some people take simple as in, I'm going to go to the lowest common denominator, which is a worksheet to fill something
Simple
in.
and mailing it in aren't the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I think something that I have seen a lot of, and I will admit, the Bitmoji virtual classrooms, they're super cool. They look really pretty if you've seen them on Twitter. I've seen those, and I've seen just other lesson plan templates out there that have great, beautiful backgrounds and just lots of boxes. But honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of smart. But when I look at them, it takes me a half a minute to figure out what's going on.
Yes.
Some of our kids don't have half a minute before they reach that frustration level.
No.
Right.
And a lot of our kids, especially our younger ones, but even my high schoolers, we need to make lessons where they can get on it and they can see 1, 2, not that you have to actually use 1, 2, or 3, but it needs to be, we need to think about just the visual design of what we're doing too, that it's attractive, but not so overly busy that, especially when we come back in the fall and teachers have all these beautiful things that they want to do online, that kids are going to not know where to start and feel that overwhelmed feeling right away.
Well, and there's some visual design principles that are instructionally researched, and like Richard Mayer is just like probably one of the best resources out there to go search around it. And there's different principles that really guide things, but when people don't consider that, and we really think about just like, I want to make it pretty, I want to make it cute, I want to make it TPT friendly. Those things are what's going to kill it, especially when we start thinking about accessibility. And the cost of making resources accessible is so much more expensive if you do it at the end. Whereas if you start it off at the beginning and you're designing in an accessible way, then the cost is nothing, because you've built everything to include that. And that goes from making it pretty to like what headers and what text sizes, and not just like, I'm going to change the size to make it look pretty, but using the actual pieces that most people have never learned about because they aren't education specific. It's more like publishing specific.
Yes.
Totally. So what's going on this week? Anyone got anything good going on? Anything happening? Anything exciting?
Looking forward to the weekend. How about you guys?
Graduation is tomorrow.
Oh, wow. How are you guys doing it? Tell us real quick.
So what we're going to do, because the school is not officially allowed to do anything, so the senior parents the school is having a virtual video.
Yeah.
And all the kids got to do a little video, take a picture, and we're doing that. The senior parents have planned for all of the graduates to line Main Street, both sides in their caps and gowns. And then the rest of the community can then cruise Main Street, yell congratulations, throw cards or gifts. Hopefully we don't injure anyone.
Call it a parade.
It's like a reverse parade.
It is a reverse parade because
that's pretty cool.
Nebraska's guidelines are we cannot have a parade, because that was one idea that we had was we'll do like a rodeo arena. Everyone will be separated and we'll have, kids on floats. No. So it's not a parade. It's around Nebraska. It's a cruise. That is the hip new word right now, is everyone's doing cruises.
Cruise. Okay.
It's
So
not a parade, it's a cruise.
It's a cruise.
Well, we used to call that when I was in high school. We
used to cruise around all the time too. That
roll
was
around all the time.
Favorite Friday night activity.
Yeah.
I wasn't cool enough for that. I played video games.
Games weren't invented when I was in high school, Mike. maybe Pong.
That's funny. If Tisha Richmond is still watching, I wanted to shout her out. She's been doing some great work on her podcast. Lots of good episodes, new outros, new intros, new music, lots of new stuff on her podcast. Lots of good guests, including me. Ha ha ha. Self-promotion. Hashtag self-promotion.
Hashtag Mr. Washburn.
So you should listen to Tisha Richmond's podcast. The other people, not necessarily me. And I guess I'm excited. I'm gonna be on Teachers. I'm finally a Teachers on Fire. So that's exciting too. Finally Tim Cavey has decided I'm cool enough to be a Teacher on Fire. So I'm excited to be on his podcast. Tisha Richmond wants all of you on her show. Would you like to have all of us at the same time? Could you handle this?
He's like, I do it.
She's too nice for all of us.
She is super nice.
She'd lose her mind.
Like we still have half the team that's not even here too. So
right. We're nine. Yes. We're nine people. So I don't know if you can handle that. So lots going on. The Minecraft Education podcast should be out next week too. That's exciting. And actually, I'm gonna play. See, I'm really good at self promotion, Diana.
I think of you as self promoting. I don't know. You don't bother.
It's lots of work, man. It's work. The talks, the Participate podcast talks. First episode is literally coming out in an hour. The moment I'm done talking to you folks, I am going to be hopping on Art19 and pushing the first episode. It is an interview with all of our mutual friend Noah Geisel. Awesome. It's great. It sounds awesome. I'm so excited for people to hear it because it's fantastic. So be on the lookout for a tweet from me very soon about the Talks podcast, because I'm really excited about it, and I hope everyone likes it. I think our next guest, actually, interestingly enough, the next guest on Talks next month is Tacey Trowbridge.
Awesome.
With our guest this week. And then I think the guest after that is Michael Bonner, who's
Nice.
also coming up on OnEducation in a couple weeks. So there's lots going on, lots of reasons to watch and listen, and all the other ways that you interact with us, this team of people, these brilliant people that we get to talk with on Friday nights. I think that's it.
It was a great
That's all-
show.
That's all the self-promotion I have. Is that
Thank you,
okay?
everyone. Thank you
I
so
don't
much
know
for
how
coming.
an hour passes by so fast.
I know, that was
It was
awesome.
great.
So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks. Please continue talking to us on Twitter. We'll keep talking back, and join us next week for Chat on Education Live. We'll see you soon. Bye.